going live. I'll get everything else set up and then we'll start. All right, let me mute this. And just set the recording to the cloud. All right. Okay. Well, thank you everybody for joining me today. This is Doyle Buehler and really excited about the State of Digital 2019. This is quarter number 4 and looking forward to talking about what's really important in the digital space and how we can put all the pieces together, and just double checking that I've got everything going. There's always one button that you seem to miss. Doesn't matter how many times you're doing this. So I'm recording it. It's live on YouTube and it's a recording on Zoom as well. And I've got the audio track going. Check, check, check. Away we go. All right, let's share the screen and then we'll get started. So for those of you who are here, just say hello in the chat box. Happy to have you here. Excited about what I'm going to be showing you. And like I said, looking forward to getting things going. Just a quick check. If you can't hear me, please let me know as well. And I will make some adjustments on my side as well. So excellent, excellent, excellent. Good stuff. All right, so let's go. My name is Doyle Buehler, and I'm here to talk about the State of Digital for 2019, quarter number 4, real world knowledge to survive and thrive in the digital economy. So I'm been in business for about 18 years, built multiple tech e-commerce startups, expanded around the world, started in Canada back in 2002, a long time ago. Grew one of my e-commerce businesses to the top 40 fastest growing company in Canada and the fastest growing in the state as well. Worked with a lot of agency work and that sort of thing, and do more sort of the digital strategy, strategic consulting and that sort of thing, and author of the book Strategy and Storytelling for the Digital Age, called Breakthrough: Unleash Your Remarkable Brand Value, Influence, and Authority. So here's a quick little agenda, an intro, which doing right now. So it looks like we're right on track. I'm going to take a look back at 2019, highlights and changes we've seen, some of the tools that are really, really important and really giving some businesses some great strength and great access to the digital economy as well. Number 4, looking forward at 2020 trends that will affect you in the digital economy. And then number 5, refining your digital assets in your ecosystem in 2020 as well. So I always like to start sessions like this with what is your biggest challenge, just to get things rolling. So if you wouldn't mind putting something into the chat box, what's your biggest challenge about digital, about online, about websites, about marketing, doesn't really matter. And I do this every time, and I've been collecting quite a few. So I'd love to add yours to the list as well. So give it a second and add, what is the biggest fear, your biggest concern, your biggest challenge for your business online? And I'll try to add it to the list as we segment these as well. Just in terms of a bit of housekeeping, rather, feel free to do a screenshot at any time. If you do share, would love to. If you could, please tag myself, Doyle Buehler. And remember, it's a learning web event. It's not a sales webinar. I'm not here to sell you something. I'm just here to show you what's going on in the digital state right now that we're in. There's no programs to buy, but I do have a gift for you at the end if you want to stick around for that as well. And if you have any questions, please type them along the way, and I will answer them at the end as well. So excellent. Let's keep rolling here. Oops, don't want to end the meeting. That wouldn't be good. All right, so where are we at? Oh goodness. Okay. All right, so looking back at 2019, let's start there. Keep things simple. Collaboration is key, and this is something that I've noticed over the last year. There's been a really big focus in on personas, number 1, which is really, really important, because from a marketing standpoint, you really have to understand who that market is and how can you actually connect with them. And one of them is understanding who they actually are. And it's becoming less forced now. It's becoming a lot more natural as well. And so it's really cool to see that, so that businesses are really able to identify who they want to do business with. And it's not just, oh, I want to do business with everybody, right? We're slowly getting the idea that it's important to be able to look at all parts of that and see who is the best person that we can actually work with as well. The second thing is collaboration. And it's actually a concept that I've seen a lot of in the last 9 months. And that's really combining what I call the Uber and WeWork into one organization. And that's sort of looking at Uber where you're providing, on-demand transportation, in this case, on-demand conclusion or that sort of thing. And then you have WeWork, where you have this large group of intellectual property or ideas and people and that sort of thing that are combining together. And they're really producing some really cool things. And I've been involved in a couple of these groups that have sort of set up. And what it does is it actually allows you to collaborate on demand, on the fly, together with people who are very, very skilled at what they do as well. And it allows you to kind of look at problems a little bit differently, because no longer do you have to, be specialized in more than one area. You focus in on your area, and you might, get additional people who are skilled in other areas, and yet kind of all tackle the problem, all tackle the challenge that's having, and find the proper solution that fits. And it includes a lot of factors, right? It's not as so linear. Um, if you were just sort of looking at it specifically as well. And I call it an on-demand collaborative type model. And I think we're going to be seeing a lot of these as well, because it is very new. It is very fresh as well. And if you can get involved with one, absolutely do that, because it really kind of allows you to connect outside of what you would normally do and that sort of thing. Second one is, finding the best teams, best partners, and best support. And I've found that that's sort of been a good thing to look at as well, because again, businesses are understanding they don't have to be an expert in absolutely every field that they are. So it's important that you find the best people for those specific roles as well. Moving along, the elephant in the room, as I call it, is what I call PVAC, the privacy, voice, automation, AI, and chatbots. And I'm going to be going into some of these, and I've got some graphs that I want to show you as well, some stats also. But comes down to these four things, right? Privacy. If you've been sort of listening in on Facebook and that sort of thing, there was a Cambridge Analytical scandal in 2017 and 2018, yeah. And they moved that into a documentary on Netflix called The Great Hack. And really what it came down to is that we need to look at our data differently. It's no longer just sort of about your credit card number or your where you live or your place of birth or how old you are or that sort of thing. It's really becoming more focused on behaviors, and that's really key, because it's the behaviors that create those opportunities for you, and it's the behaviors that kind of move you into a certain area as well. And we have to be able to manage that as a business. And again, I'm going to go into this a little bit further, but it's really important that we're able to understand how to do this. Number two is the voice, the share of voices as well. And again, we've got a lot of activities with, Google Voice or Google Home rather, and Alexa and that sort of thing. And that's really growing in strength. And we have to understand, how can we as a business actually use it to our advantage? And there are some, it's obviously very new. It's very fresh. It's only like a couple years old. That it's been getting into mainstream anyways, but it gives us that opportunity to look at how can we actually leverage that for our businesses. Number three is automation, process automation, and human-centered AI. So this is looking at how do we actually automate some of the processes that are really sort of, I guess, basic in terms of what do we do and how do we do them and that sort of thing. So we don't need to do everything. We can get automation to help us along the way. And whether that's AI or whatever you want to call it, doesn't really matter. But the challenge is we have to make it human-centered as well. And finally, chatbots, we can look at that in terms of a quick and easy marketing tool to help with those sort of not menial tasks, but those tasks that are really sort of less critical going forward, and that can move your audience towards where you want them to go at the start of the journey as well. And then finally, social and search. They've been testing just the like counts on Instagram and Facebook recently in Australia. So where basically it doesn't show you the actual number. It gives you that it doesn't actually say how many people. It just says such and such liked your post or whatever. It doesn't give you a direct count. And I've got some stats that I want to show you that just kind of puts that in light. Is it good or is it bad? And then Google BERT, finally, the algorithm update that came to us in the middle of October. And what does it mean for you as a business also? So let's get into some of this stuff as well. So concerns about misuse of personal data, percentage of internet users who say they're worried about how companies use their personal data, 64%, right? So this says a lot. Most, 2/3 of the human population around the globe is saying that we need to be able to look at our personal data a little bit better. Companies that are misusing it, they need to smarten up. They need to kind of get the message and look at how can they actually protect that as well. In terms of voice search and voice commands worldwide, 43% of people have used this between age 16 and 64 as well. So what is that? Yeah, 40%. That's a huge potential market as well. And it's only going to grow from here. I've got Google Home right beside me who answers my questions, plays music for me. And so it's a really cool thing. And it is a new technology, but we have to be able to understand how to use it. So what about using it? Guess what? 16 to 24-year-olds, 50% of them have used it in the last 30 days, right? 25 to 35-year-olds, 50%, 35 to 44, 43%, 45 to 54, 31, and 55 to 64, 21%. So it's really moving in there, and it's really moving quickly as well. And whether it's your phone, whether it's, Siri or Google Assistant on Android or whatever the case may be, guess what? Something that we need to look at. So in terms of automation, AI and being human-centered, it's actually a concept that I'm kind of trying to dig out here and sort of put it in place so that it's more of a visual. And this is kind of what I'm trying to piece together. So we have advancing technology and increasing technology in this graph. And then we have basically the amount of human interaction on this graph. And ideally, we want to be able to reduce this so that we can work on, more strategic projects and more sort of intellectual projects and that sort of thing. So there's this point in this intersection here that can move up and down depending on how much automation, how much AI are we going to use. But we have to make sure that we always have this balancing factor of being human-centered as well. So this intersection can move up and down, but this is sort of the space that we need to be able to be good at and be very good at. So this is, again, more of the strategic side, the digital genius that I'm going to talk to you about as well. But if we can keep ourselves in that space, use the automation to kind of get people, get businesses to a certain level, and then we can take over from that. And that's what's really important. So whether it's going to be at 80% or 60%, it really depends on sort of what your business is based on. But we need to look at how do we actually move this intersection point together as well along the way. In terms of the chatbots that I spoke of earlier, guess what? We need to be using them now. You need to be implementing them into your business for simple things, for very basic things. How do we actually do that? Resolving a complaint or problem, buying something small, helping them along the way, giving them a gift or a download or something like that, and really sort of creating those interactions that are fun and interesting and valuable, obviously, as well. We don't want to just sort of give off the bottom jobs that nobody's going to do. So we have to be careful of that as well. So hiding like experiments, how does that affect the number of actual likes? Some great data. As I said, they've been doing it in Australia on Instagram and Facebook, where they just list the people who liked it or loved it or whatever the case may be. Interesting, because in all the cases, it's actually dropped the overall amount of likes. So this means that if the post, if with numbers, is less now because they're not showing the numbers. Hope that makes sense. You can take a look at the source here as well from Social Media Today. So as they show, when they implemented the don't show likes, the actual likes dropped by about 15% on average. So in that case, it's going the wrong direction. But Facebook and Instagram, they have to look at how do they actually do that? How are they going to implement it? And we know for a fact that chasing likes is not a good strategy for building businesses. It's been sort of used aggressively in the influencer space, but is that actually going to work? They're going to be panicking because I think they're unrolling that in the Facebook in the US coming up in the rest of November and December as well. So be interesting to see how those results pan out as well. So moving on into Google Bert. Everybody remember him from Sesame Street? Good little guy, right? Bert actually stands for something. I didn't actually realize that until after. I thought they were just having a good time or whatever, but it stands for bidirectional encoder representations from transformers. It's a mouthful. And it's a neural network based technique for natural language processing pre-training. So what does that actually mean? It's basically Google can better discern the context of words in search queries, right? And I don't know about you, but when I Google something, I typically try to translate it in my head first before I type it in, because I know kind of what results I'm going to get based on how I actually translate my thought into something very simple and very lined up with my results. So in some way, I'm kind of not really enjoying the full opportunity for the results, but at the same time, you don't want to weed through, page after page after page if you can't ask the question properly. Something that I've always said as well, right? It needs to be in plain English. Don't, worry about all the extra fluff of SEO. And is SEO going to die? Well, who knows? But what it's saying is that conversational content has to be the goal here. It cannot no longer be, tried to be optimized for specific keywords or that sort of thing. So have a conversation. At the end of the day, that's what it's about, is are you having a conversation with it? Will you be able to optimize it? No, at this point, but I'm sure people will find a way. But the point is make it context, put the context in the content, right? So tell the story, put it as you would say it in a conversation, and eventually this Google Bert will be able to pick it up as well. It is unrolling for little by little as well, so we might not see all of it for some time, but keep that in mind. You need to focus on clear, good writing, right? And blogs and videos and that sort of thing that have obviously that definition of content attached to it as well. So don't compromise between creating content of your audience and linear phrasing construction for machines. Okay, you shouldn't have to worry about how do I translate this, because it's not going to work anymore. All right, quick little birthday celebration. Did you know that the internet was 50 years ago in 2019? And if you think about it, like 50 years ago, it was fascinating. Like, can you imagine the next 50 years? Like, that's going to be unbelievable, I believe. All right. One of the interesting things that I always love to see is pictures, infographics, and that sort of thing. And here's a quick one of every minute on the internet, rather, 2019, every minute of the internet. And a lot of things go on, right? Love is posted 23,000 times. What else we got here? Instagram, 277,000 stories. YouTube, 4.5 million videos every minute, right? Fascinating. What else we got? Google, 4.4 million searches every minute. What else we got here? Instagram, 55,000 photos. So it just shows you, I mean, the huge opportunity, really, when you think about it, that this is a state of content that's always on. And we kind of have to look at that in terms of how do we actually manage that? How do we actually deal with that as well? The internet has grown as well. And I've got a few more stats that I'm going to show you. But in 2018, we're about 4.3 billion people, a 9% increase from January 2018 as well. So that's over half of the population of the earth when you think about it. All right, so let's get into some more stats and that sort of thing, and then we'll kind of move on from there. Just want to quick shout out to Simon Kemp, who works with We Are Social and Hootsuite, and they put out these great packages of statistics on a quarterly basis, monthly basis, yearly basis, by geography, everything. It's fascinating. So go take a look at these. Really some great stories being told by the data. Digital around the world, 7.7 billion people on the earth. 5 billion of those are using mobile. 4.4 billion are using internet, and active social media is 3.7 billion people. That's a lot, right? When you think about it. Over half, what is that? Almost 2/3 have a mobile phone accessing the internet from around the world. Just fascinating stuff. All right, so changes over the year. Year over year, it's gone up 1%. Total population, mobile has gone up by users by 2.4%, double the population. So internet users have gone up by 10%. So that means it's being accessible everywhere in desktops and laptops and that sort of thing. Active social media users up almost 10%, right? 328 million people. And then mobile social media users has gone up 15%. Right? Fascinating, and really shows you the opportunity, where the opportunity can be as well. Internet connection speed, just I thought this was kind of fun. The average speed is about 29 megabits per second mobile, and it's gone up about 25%. Desktop fixed internet is about 69 megabits per second, and it's gone up about 40% as well. You can actually, if you go into these, you can see which country is sort of doing in the top 10 or the bottom 50 or whatever the case may be, bottom 150. All right. And then just quickly, the world's most visited websites, Google, YouTube, and Facebook, the big social media sites and search sites fill up the top with most of the traffic there as well. So something cool to look at. Now, what are they doing? What are people doing online? Well, content. They're consuming content, right? I showed you that what happens in an internet minute. That's content. So 91% are watching online videos, 51% are watching vlogs, 70% are using music streaming services, 47% listening to radios, 40% listening to podcasts. If you're in a business, you need to be looking at how do you create a podcast for this content. People are out there looking for this content to fill that almost insatiable amount of content that we need, we want, we desire, right? That's what people are going there for. It's to gorge on the ripe fruit of the internet, gorge on the content, and get the ideas and the concepts and that sort of thing. So again, tremendous opportunity. 3.72 billion people are using social media actively. 48% of the total world population, 3.6 billion are accessing it via mobile devices as well. So if you don't have your mobile site, if you don't have it optimized, then guess what? You're losing your business. And then as a percent of the population, mobile users account for 47% of traffic. In terms of advertising, we need to look at this because this is where you can actually leverage the power of your business as well in 2020, because that's where a lot of it's going to come from. And I don't mean just advertising for advertising's sake. You have to create the structure and the strategies to be able to do this properly. But you can reach, and again, not that you would, but not that you would need to, but 1.9 million people is what potential 1.9 thousand, so 1.9 billion rather. People as a potential market on Facebook that are receptive to advertising. In terms of Instagram, 879 million, Twitter, 260 million, Snapchat, 360 million. And then this is 650 million for LinkedIn as well. And this is one has actually been quite surprising. I've seen a lot of growth in LinkedIn. I've actually been involved or had an account on LinkedIn since about 2006, I think it was, and Facebook about 2006 as well, right around the same time. So it's really interesting to see these social networks grow over the years as well. In terms of the audience profile for Facebook, this is actually quite interesting. I mean, it's kind of to be expected, but 18 to 34 takes up probably almost looks like a half of the total market size, and then obviously tapers off from there. But don't be too concerned if you are marketing to, the older generations, the boomers, the Gen X's, millennials are right about here. This still represents like millions and millions of people. So don't let that affect how you're going to advertise. Oh, this is the small chunk of the pie type thing. You have to create a campaign that actually engages with those specific people. So it just gives you the potential upside to everything in terms of the market size. Instagram, again, similar. It's focused in around the 18 to 34-year-olds. Getting into the Gen X and the boomers, then it obviously drops off as well. Now, in terms of the LinkedIn audience, this is an interesting one because we can reach about 653 million people on LinkedIn, 12% 18 plus that can be reached with advertising. Okay, so not everybody gets an ad, which is totally fine. Reach is increased by 2.2%, and then the audience breakdown, 43% female and 57% male as well. In terms of age groups, they've kind of grouped everything together in terms of the 25 to 34-year-olds, and then moving into the Gen X and the boomers as well. Obviously a lot smaller. But I do want to add to this in that there has been a lot of growth in the last 2 years by that younger millennial audience. And it's actually been really cool to watch and see. You have a lot of people there, they've got tremendous energy and they're just so into it. And they're creating some amazing content and they're really sort of creating that engaged audience. And it's really fascinating to see and learn from the youngins kind of thing. But they've got their stuff together on LinkedIn, and it's a really exciting network because there is a lot of variety of content. There is a lot of support. It's not quite as divisive as something like Facebook is as well. So it's a great community, and it's a great supportive community as well. But you do have to have a plan. You do have to have a strategy to be able to develop it as well. Another source that I go to quite often is called from the World Economic Forum. They have a strategic intelligence aspect. And what it does is it allows you to look at specific things within the digital economy as well. So digital transformation, access and adoption, identities, data sharing, security and process, and informed agile governments, and that's governance rather. And that sort of thing. So what it does is it really allows you to kind of dig deep if that's your thing, and you can actually select which one you want based on the content as well. And I've got some really cool tools that I'm going to show you as well coming up pretty quick as well, which is now. So some of the tools that I've seen really kind of come to the top in terms of being easy and accessible and fun and interesting and providing some really good value. I'm not going to be able to go into all of them, but some of them that I've seen really quite good and helpful. Ubersuggest.com. This is traffic content and positioning. Answerthepublic.com. This is fascinating because it provides answers, or the answer for the questions. It's kind of like Jeopardy, I think. you give it a statement and it'll find the questions for you. So you have to answer, it answers in the form of a question rather. Buzzsumo.com. This is looking at people and topics. So this allows if you're wanting to connect with specific types of content, specific hash words, specific keywords, specific people that are tweeting this or tweeting that, or Facebook or blogs or whatever the case may be, this gives you the granularity, really look at that content, and then you can manage that. So you can retweet it, you can copy it, or not copy, but you can use it in articles, you can share it, you can do everything you want. You can write about those specific topics because they are trending topics as well. So it's really, really important. FYI.to, this is an amazing tool because this is really about content curation. And as you produce more and more content, you need a place to put it. You need a place that's really quick and really easy to access for you and for the business posting and creating the content, but also for the people reviewing it and understanding it and following it and that sort of thing. So it's a great tool. I've been using it for a couple of years, developed by my great friend Rodrigo Martinez from Singapore. And it basically allows you to place your content in one page so you can be very selective. So you can have, it's like a playlist, but it's for content. So you can separate, certain gifts, you can separate certain chapters of a book out into, specific cards, and then people can look at those specific cards as well. Go take a look at it. It's really cool and really, really helpful. Another great tool, repurpose.io, content repurposing. A lot of businesses kind of get stuck on the fact that, oh, once I've done it, I don't need to do anything more with it type thing. But you really should look at saving time and money and resources by repurposing it as well. And this does it automatically. So if you could do a Facebook Live, it'll create a podcast for you or convert it into a podcast. It'll post the podcast. It'll create some visuals. It'll create a social media post. So it's basically reusing this content, and then you can actually reschedule it for further on as well. And just so you know, I do have the link to this SlideShare presentation as a SlideShare. And the link is at the end as well. So you can actually click on the links as well. Using WhatsApp and Slack groups and that sort of thing, ManyChat as well for the more of the automation side. But if you're not in sort of a WhatsApp group or something like that, that's really kind of collaborative, as I spoke about earlier, or Slack, take a look at how you can actually build one yourself, because that might give you some extra leverage as well. it's all about connecting and contacting people from around the world. And how do you actually do that with these types of tools as well? So they make the job really, really easy. And then the last one is tools.digital. This is a sort of a beta version of tools that we've assembled. They're based on the book, right? And based on what I call the 7 frames of digital leadership as well. So each specific area of the tools is one of those 7. So whether it's strategy, whether it's content, whether it's social, whether it's branding, whether it's website, whether it's selling, and whether it's advertising. So all the tools are grouped according to that sort of structure. So it's really quite easy to say, oh, I need a tool for this, I need a tool for that, and away you go as well. So please take a look. If you do have some feedback, would be fantastic to hear from you also. So quickly, just a quick little overview. This is ubersuggest.com. So what it does is it allows you to do a quick little review of keywords or hashtags or whatever the case may be, and just kind of give you a taste of what is going on and how it actually can work as well. So in this case, I did digital strategies just to kind of show how it looks. And it gives you sort of a statement of how many searches, what a typical cost would cost per click to be able to do that, and what volume is there as well. So type in some words, give it a go. It's free. There's no charge. I think they do have like a premium version where you do get sort of extra level results, but what they have there is pretty good as well. Now, this is Answer the Public. And if you haven't tried it, I highly encourage you to go try just to kind of see what your market is saying as well. So whether or not you actually use these specifically is another thing, but it kind of really helps paint a picture. And I love how they do that in this great visual as well. So again, I did digital strategy. It separates what are people actually asking questions about digital strategy. So up here, why is digital strategy is important? Rather, why digital strategy is important? Why digital strategy? What is digital strategy consulting? What is digital strategy and planning? And you can actually see if the colors change, right, from highly important to least important. So you can actually see these questions. So if you really want to take advantage of this, go through those specific questions and answer the questions, right? And create a blog, create a video where you're actually answering those questions, because people are asking these questions, right, throughout the internet. It's a fascinating look at that. And obviously there's both sides of this, but what breaks it down into an inner category and then an outer category as well. And then it prioritizes them, right, in terms of what you can actually look for or what people are asking for. And again, that's the connection here, is that what are people actually asking? What are they actually looking for as well? So it allows you to really target in nice and quick in terms of what you can actually do. All right. So next step, looking forward, I'm going to talk about what I call the black wire. I've got some trends I want to talk through, and talking about digital genius, and then digital assets and digital ecosystem as well. So let's just oops. I lost my buttons again. Hate it when that happens. There we go. All right. And please, yeah, if you have any questions as well, I keep on forgetting to ask that, but if you have any questions as well, please feel free to ask as well, and I'll go through them at the end. And let's keep going. All right. So the black wire, what exactly is this? It's how to detangle, how to focus, and how to transform from the chaos of busyness in the digital economy. And what I mean by that is, look, it's very confusing for somebody in the industry. It's not always exactly clear what's happening or who's doing what or that sort of thing. And it is quite confusing. So what I've created is sort of a metaphor in terms of how does this actually look and how can we actually understand it. But what we want to look at is how do we detangle this big black mess, right? And there is it's not all chaotic, right? There is some systems and some processes into it. And how do we actually pull this wire out to be able to use that to our advantage as well? Because if we can do that, we've got the pieces that we really need to be able to do something effective as well. So if you look at it here, like which one's the longest, just because it's long doesn't mean it's good type thing. We want to be able to streamline this process. We don't want to have sort of this mess of everything all around us, do this website SEO, social media this and social media that, and all this kind of stuff. So we really want to try to see how we can organize it. So isn't it cool? It's the greatest time in history as we have access to literally billions of people around the world. But it's also the worst time in history because we have access to literally billions of other people around the world, right? We have to be very selective. We have to know what we're looking for as well and what our customer is looking for. It's never been easier to get your ideas out there, but it's the hardest time because there is so much noise out there, right? It's really frustrating at times, and it feels like there is a lot against you. Somebody's pulling the wire in the other direction, um, pulling your wire to take attention away from you as well. So at the end of the day, though, we're only one click away from your competitors. And I talk about this a lot, is that you've got this finger, and this finger can get you anywhere, um, anywhere in the world that you want to go. And so we need to be able to harness that. And we need to understand that, guess what? If your customer, if your audience doesn't really engage with you, they're going to go somewhere else as well. So is this journey like this wire here, this cable, all kind of mixed up? And I think in a lot of cases, a lot of businesses are like that, right? So how do we actually make that journey more streamlined, more effective, more useful, more helpful for our audience? We have to look at that. How do we actually do that? How? Well, businesses without a solid digital strategy will not be able to break through the clutter and noise of what is here now and what is coming. So we need to keep that in mind. So how do you change this into this? It can be easy, with your digital strategy. Obviously, there's a lot behind that, but we have to start somewhere, right? How do we unwind that ball of fuzz, that jumbled ball of wire? Strategy, it isn't the dance, the orchestra, or even the stage and lights. It's like the black wire that transcends everything to be seen and heard in the performance itself. The black wire detangles, focuses, and transforms those from the chaos of busyness in the digital age, right? It gives us the tool to be able to understand what's important, what's not. How do we actually do that? Well, it's time to find your black wire, right? Black wire connects and integrates, it separates and removes chaos, creates impact. It's like a live circuit, like the web, the internet. That's a giant circuit. From my old engineering days, that's what a circuit is, right? But we have to make sure that it's organized and used properly as well to help you detangle and transform the chaos from the chaos of busyness in the digital age as well. And one of the ways that we do this is by understanding, okay, well, what's going on? So I've got my top 20 digital 2020 digital business trends as well. And I was working on these for the Foreign Direct Investments Summit in Sydney. I think when was it, back in June? And it was a cool little panel with Richard Quest from CNN. And we just were talking about the future and what it sort of holds. And we have to really understand that these are important for businesses. And you might not see them, but they're there. Okay. And it's not always as easy as it seems. Influencers won't save you, right? They're fading. New fans won't save you. Not all fans or buyers are created equal. Posting won't save you. There's no real business in just posting, right? Content alone will not save you as there's no structure. And a lot of times we get stuck on these. So we need to be aware of what's coming and what's going on and what's happening, what's changing the landscape. And I liken these to trends to like glaciers as well. You do have the tech trends, right? The voice search and the chats and the AIs and that sort of thing, the tools and Snapchat and the glasses and that sort of thing. So those are cool and those are fun, and they can obviously have a business part of your business or a strategic relationship. Um, but we need to look at it's more than just the tech trends. Tech trends come and go. Okay. The glaciers, the trends of change are more behavioral. They're more cultural, right? They're more substantial because this is the way that the economy is moving. And trends don't care if you don't know about them. They don't really care. They just keep cutting their path through the mountains as well, right? They continue to sculpt the economic landscape. And so it's really important to understand them. So number one, we are in the age of self-innovation and creativity. We all want to be a Picasso, Steven Spielberg, or Lady Gaga to create our work of art, our masterpieces for the world to enjoy. Your digital has to be a platform for this to understand, support, and encourage. Okay, it doesn't mean that we have to be that, but that's an aspirational goal. That's what we have to provide. And it doesn't mean that if you're an art supplier that you provide that automatically, or if you're a banker or an accountant that you can't provide that. We need to look at that whole range of activities and that whole range of um, things that people want to be able to do, and can we enable them to do that? With that, can we allow them to express their creativity and their innovation? Absolutely. Might take some thought, but the ones that are able to think of something are the ones that are able to disrupt as well. Number two, we are in the age of behaviors. It's beyond data, right? Beyond that sort of thing and what data means. It's more than just your credit card details. It's how you react, respond, and seek out what you love online. There are no more clear lines that simply delineate personas or avatars. We need to focus on the behaviors as well. And your digital has to understand what your customer is telling you and what they are not telling you. And I've got a neat little story that I'm going to talk about coming up soon as well. So understand the behaviors. And again, this was what the profound statement about Cambridge Analytical and the Facebook data scandal and the big hack rather, was that it was about the behaviors. It doesn't matter if they have your credit card details. You don't want to give them to you. You don't want to give them to people. But the point is that that's basic. Okay, we need to go deep dive into the actual behaviors. What are you doing? What are you experiencing? And we need to understand that when we build our journey for our audiences as well. So number three, we are in the age of humanness. No longer can everything rather be automated for business. It simply does not work. Your digital has to understand, support, and encourage a human-centric approach. And I showed you that graph earlier on where there's that intersection point where the technology of AI and automation meets with the technology of the humanness, right? The human side of things. And we have to know where that intersection is, and we have to test it too. It's not just arbitrary. It's how does this actually work? What can we provide as value beyond what the technology can provide as well? And being able to know that and understand that is really important as well. Don't try to automate everything. You see a lot of this happening where businesses will have, for example, ClickFunnels, where, you know what, it's good process, it's good understanding of selling, but guess what? What happens at the end if you have a pissed off customer that just felt overwhelmed by your process or wants to get out or wants because they felt that it's, it's not a very good process or whatever. I'm not saying it is, but we have to sort of enable those checkpoints for humanness along the way, because people want to do business with other humans. That's really what it's all about as well. So keep that in mind. Number four, we are in the age of reducing friction. Anything that slows your audience down is something that they will avoid. Okay. It's now, it's instant. And your digital journey has to provide a clear pathway, a journey that has no obstacles as well. If you're slowing people down with click here or click that or click here and then sign up here and register there, they don't like that. You don't like that. I don't like that. So we need to make these as seamless as possible. And this is, again, where we need to understand that point between technology and humanness to be able to create that as well. We obviously need automation to be able to reduce that friction, because if every single process had to be processed by a human, it would take way too long. Okay. And again, the global business village, where you can have a customer from around the world, if your business isn't operating when they're up and about doing their business, guess what? You've missed out on an opportunity. So you have to be clear about that. It has to be easy. So number five, we are in the age of zero trust. And we're not going to trust you until you give us a damn good reason. And part of this is because we're realizing that businesses are taking advantage of our data, taking advantage of us. And we give them zero. We start with zero, Mr. Business, Mrs. Business Owner. Sorry, you've got zero trust. You have to earn that. Instead of, we used to start somewhere, above zero, but now it's really, you need to look at the basics in terms of how can I actually trust you? I don't. Right from the start, zero. And that comes across in a lot of things as well. So I want to know, how do you protect my privacy? I want to know, how do you create permission-based marketing and selling? No more of this spam stuff. Okay. Get rid of that. How do you personalize the experience that you offer so it is unique? Again, I am different from, another customer. What are you doing to be able, you as the business doing to be able to personalize that? And I don't mean put their name in, hi Bob, hi Doyle, here's my email for all my stuff you can buy. Right? That's not personalization. Personalization, the truest sense of it, is understanding the journey that your audience, specific audience member, is going through. So understanding the behaviors and then responding to the behaviors. And this is where automation can actually come into play very, very quickly. So your digital has to step up and provide what is expected without conditions. Easy, right? So those are the top 5 trends that we're going to be seeing more and more of. And again, they're cutting the path in the landscape in the digital economy as well. So we need to be able to understand those and how they can affect us specifically. Before I get into the next section, just a quick little understanding of digital assets and digital ecosystems. Okay, I do talk about them a lot, but they are different. Digital assets is your content, it's your structures, it's your tools, it's kind of the stuff that holds everything together. Your digital ecosystem, now this is your channels, your mediums, the journey that you're taking them on, basically how they live and breathe with the use of your digital assets. So let's talk about the digital ecosystem first. A number of years ago, Google conducted a research project called the Zero Moment of Truth. And what they were actually looking for was how long did it take for a customer to actually engage in a purchase. And what they found out was that it took on average about 7 hours, 11 touch points, or 4 channels. And this does vary. But what it says is that people need to spend time with you. One of the biggest things that I see all the time is that, guess what? Out of those 7 hours, 11 touch points, and 4 channels, we're only focusing on about 3% of that. These are the people that are either using a contact us page or ready to put a credit card down for payment. So you're missing out on a huge amount of your potential market. 30%, they're never going to do business with you, which is fine, but you've left with 67% that can potentially do business if you provide them with a good journey, right? If you provide them with a great experience, they'll continue to follow you through. You'll continue to show them what's important and how you can actually help them solve their challenge or their problem or whatever the case may be. So how do you do that? You put in little products along the way. And this is created by Daniel Priestley, but he's broken it down into key sections. The first one being the gift. And this is something free. It's checklists, it's a quiz, it's a how-to, it's a podcast. There's no commitment, no risk, and that sort of thing. He's also added this extra little step, which basically graduates people. So let's start them on their initial journey, right? As part of this 67%, let's provide them with some great value, some things that they can actually latch onto that can help them understand their problem. Then we can move them into what's called a product for prospects. And this is higher value, low commitment, low risk. So there's not much. It might be a little bit of time. It might be a little bit of a cost, but we're not talking like high ticket items like $2,000 or $3,000, whatever the case may be. Gives them some time to spend with you, a little bit more here and there, but it's all really very important. From there, we can then move them through this buyer's journey to our core business, where it's gold, silver, bronze. It's done for you, done with you, do it yourself training. It's your full and remarkable solution as well. So we have to understand, how does that really fit together? And one of the ways that we can do this is looking at, again, digital strategy is super, super important. But one of the concepts that's really key here is what I call the keystone. And if you look at this point right here at the top of that curve, this is actually what's called a keystone. And these series of rocks or blocks or whatever, bricks, whatever you want to call them, that is what holds the structure together. So without that, what are you left with? Well, you're left with a pile of rubble, right? So we need to be able to understand, how do we put these pieces in place? What is that digital strategy? What is that keystone that allows you to be able to move people through their journey, through their buyer's journeys? In this case, this is the foundation, the keystone that I use, talking about their digital strategy, developing it, looking at their content, developing their social and sharing, creating video content and branding, developing a website alignment, creating a sales process and a buyer's process, and then expanding that and amplifying that with advertising and analytics as well. So it's really cool because that's what you can produce if you have a little bit of structure behind it. You can do some amazing things with it, right? But if you're just kind of flying by the seat of your pants, as they say, it's not going to happen. You're not going to be able to build that. Build something, but it might not look like that. It might not be able to support that weight as well. All right, so looking at owning your digital assets as well. And this is important because this allows you to structure a baseline strategy to say, what are we about? Okay, and fundamentally, it comes down to three core areas: your brand value, your community value, and your product value. If you're able to establish those, that is where you'll be able to build your keystone, build your strength, and that sort of thing. And that's what will pull through your black wire as well. So these are the concepts. Take a look at this: your brand value, your community value, your product value. And if you can combine those, this becomes what I call your strategic architecture, your digital leadership architecture. It's the foundation, which is really important. So ask yourself, some simple strategy questions. What are we about? What do we do best? What makes it work? What value are you going to deliver today, tomorrow, and next year? Okay, very important. Now, to get to your what I talked about earlier, your zero moment of truth with your digital ecosystem, it's not that hard. We have to look at what are the pieces that we need. Well, we can get people to watch. Remember that stat I showed you about people that are consuming content in the digital space. So we can do that. We can produce this content so that that's what people are looking for. We can create items that people watch. We can create items that content rather that people listen to. We can create content that people read, and we can create content that people do. So where do we start? Well, you know what, can't do everything all at once. So take a look at what's most important, or what is sort of the least work method type thing in terms of what's really important here. So take a look at this. What's the value of the digital asset, and what's the performance of the digital asset? Start with blogs, simple content. Start with social media. Start with social images. Move to sort of this next layer, where you can actually look at guides or checklists, webinars, gifts, or value sequence as well. And then move into the next level, where it could be workshops, it could be podcasts, and then again move to the next level where it becomes high performance and high results, where you're producing a mastermind, you're producing a diagnostic or an assessment, a business tool or something like that, a software as a service as well. So start small, move up, add skill and complexity as you're able to grow the business as well. Now, one of the last concepts that I want to talk to you about is your strategic thinking. Okay. And we believe in the power of insights into the digital economy to drive business value. We call this digital genius as well. And what it really is, it's your strategic thinking. It's saying, okay, well, what's really important here? How can I actually deal with this? Is this person taking me for a ride, or what's the case here? You don't need to be Albert Einstein to be a digital genius, right? It comes down to your strategic thinking. A lot of us get sort of caught up in the day-to-day working in the business, but this allows you to sort of step back and say, what's really important here? Otherwise, we can feel overwhelmed, right? So if we're in this disrupted zone down here, feeling overwhelmed, confused, non-competitive analysis paralysis, or we can be in the technician zone where, guess what, you know a little bit about digital but can't fully implement within the business, or you're over down here with the thought leader or guru zone, which got some great ideas, but little knowledge to grow or scale within the business with digital as well. And then we can move up here to the digital genius zone, where we're able to create that clarity. We're able to create that certainty and understanding of digital to grow and scale within your business. And this is really important for business leaders, for digital leaders, because this is what you can actually produce then. This is how you can grow and scale your business. You don't necessarily need to be an expert in every single aspect, but you do need to know what's important and when and that sort of thing. So it's that strategic thinking that helps you do that. And you can align it with these four factors: digital awareness, digital leadership, digital skills, and digital knowledge. So if you're able to combine these together, that gives you the opportunity to know what needs to be done. and to be aware of the situation of SEO, or backlinking, or whatever the case may be, or Facebook marketing, or whatever. It doesn't really matter, but it gives you that opportunity to understand fully what elements are critical and needed for your digital journey as well. So just quickly, mark it down if you got time, put it into the chat as well. What's your digital awareness, 1 to 10, just for fun? What's your digital knowledge, 1 to 10? What's your digital skills, 1 to 10? And what's your digital leadership, 1 to 10 as well? All right, cool. So one of the things that we have to make sure that we don't miss is, if we don't have what I call your digital genius, we could be falling into these gaps. There's a fantastic example of in World War II, there was these light bomber aircraft that would go over enemy territory, drop the bombs, come back, right? They were obviously losing airplanes, bombers, because they were getting shot down. So what the initial thought was, okay, well, let's mark where all these bullets landed on the aircraft and see if we can, create a better armor plating, or protect the aircraft a little bit differently, or build it stronger in that area as well. But if you take a quick look, I mean, what's the challenge here? It's not so much that the bullet holes are in the airplane, but what's missing, right? It's the gap here that we're missing. So the airplanes that did not return do not have bullet holes in them, right? They were shot in the engines, they were shot in the cockpit areas, and in the main fuselage, and towards the outer wing as well. So these aircraft didn't actually make it back. So the fact that if you reinforce these areas where the bullets were going, guess what? You're going to have the exact same results. The aircraft were not going to make it back. But Abraham Wald, he was a mathematician in World War II, came up with and it seems easy looking at it. It's like, well, yeah, okay, that makes total sense. But it's like all of our problems, all of our challenges, sometimes they have this gap that we just completely miss. The armor doesn't go where the bullet holes are. It goes where the bullet holes are not. It goes on the engines. It goes on the cockpit, right? That's how we get these aircraft to return. We create the safe zones around these aircraft that protects the critical components. And if we don't have that, we don't really understand the real problem. So if we don't have our digital genius, we don't really understand the full problem, and we don't understand how we can fully leverage that as well. It's like Neo in The Matrix, right? One of my favorite movies. He was actually able to, at the end, it took him a long time, but he finally figured out, he kind of got to that level of digital genius, let's call it for what it is. And he's able to control those bullets as well. But it took an understanding from him that, oh, this is what I need to know. Okay, so it's really important that you see that, so that you can actually do that. And, so where are you now type thing in terms of the business? Are you out in the blue ocean? Do you kind of have a roadmap? Do you have a flight plan? Because if you don't, what happens if nobody buys from you? Right? It becomes a hobby. So we need to keep moving. What's 1 degree off course? As a former military pilot and commercial pilot, there was always this rule of thumb. It's called the 1 in 60 rule, where if you travel 60 miles or kilometers, doesn't really matter the units. If you're 1 degree off course, you're going to be about 1 mile or 1 kilometer off. So for every 60 kilometers forward, if you're 1 degree off your target, off your destination, you're going to be 1 kilometer off. Okay. So short distances, that's not bad, right? 60 kilometers. If you're flying, you look, it's a kilometer over there. Okay, I can correct to it at the last moment and kind of turn. But if you're flying far, if you're traveling far, Perth to Sydney, Sydney to LA, New York to Hawaii, guess what? If you're 1 degree off, you're not going to make it to your destination. So this is really important, because that's the strategy that actually gets you there. That provides you with those corrections. That provides you with that ability to be able to say, oh, I need to adjust here. This is changing. I need to adjust before I sort of go off my 1 degree. So again, it's very, very small. It's the difference between a sharp knife and a dull knife is 1 degree. The difference between getting to your destination and not getting to your destination, 1 degree. And that's not a lot. So how do we actually do that? We need to look at an inflection point. Again, as a former aerospace engineer, I love charts and I love diagrams and that sort of thing. But there's a lot of talk about recession and that sort of thing, and whether it comes or not, who knows? But the fact is that if we're able to control the outcome, if we're able to understand what we need to do, if we know what direction we need to correct to, the inflection point is where it moves from a curve going down to a curve going up. And you probably heard the tipping point. Quite honestly, the tipping point means it's the peak. So it means that it's the peak, or it's moving things forward. But an inflection point is actually a much better representation, because that means you're translating from one direction to another as well. So what point will you change the business for the better? So I have your digital challenge for 2020, right? Be seen, be heard, be understood, be known. Those are the key ingredients. So here's how: harness and understand the challenges that are holding you back. Build the ones that I asked you at the beginning. Build a compelling strategy that delivers your unique value. Be seen, be heard, be understood, be known. That's how you untangle that. These are all the pieces that you have in place to be able to do that. So that's pretty much all I have. Keep on moving. What would you like to see next time? If you do have comments or questions, please send me feedback, Doyle@depths.digital, or let me know if we're connected on social. Happy to hear from you. Please introduce yourself as well. Please post a review or comments if you like the presentation as well. If you did want to grab it from SlideShare, go to bit.ly/Doyle Buehler 35 as well. Unleash your digital genius. Don't forget. Oh yeah. And before I forget, if you do take the digital genius assessment and get a free paperback copy, okay? Paperback, not a PDF. This is a real book. I'll mail it to you. If you go to leadership.digital and take the a leadership quiz, the digital genius assessment, give you an idea of where you stand and what you need to do as well. And I will compare the list. So if you watch the webinar and you took the assessment at leadership.digital, I will send you a paperback copy. All right, excellent. So I know it's been just over an hour. I don't really want to keep you any longer. An hour is a good time to spend with somebody on the digital space. So I really want to thank you. I really hope you've had a fantastic time and appreciate taking the time. And so without further ado, again, please reach out if you'd like to. My name is Doyle Buehler, and I will see you online.